What if I told you that the version of you that's struggling, that's overthinking, that's always waiting for the next moment to finally feel whole, was never meant to survive who you're becoming? Not because there's something wrong with you, but because that old self, the one built on fear, survival, and repetition, simply can't hold the frequency of your expansion. They made you believe that staying the same was safe, that if you just held on tight enough to your pain, to your roles, to your expectations, you'd be okay. But what if that safety you've been clinging to is what's slowly draining the very life out of you? You were taught that survival meant sameness, that healing meant controlling the chaos, that transformation meant effort, and more effort. But what if it's not about effort at all? Here's the truth. Transformation doesn't destroy you. It only destroys what was never really you to begin with. It's like wearing a winter coat in the middle of summer. It once kept you warm. It once made sense. But now it's suffocating. And the more you cling to it, the more unbearable it becomes, until you think the heat is the problem, when in fact it's the coat. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research confirms what mystics have always said in symbols and silence, that your brain becomes chemically addicted to familiar emotions, even if they're painful. Especially if they're painful, because pain is predictable, and predictability to the survival mind feels like control. And yet, if your body is addicted to the old emotions, if your identity is wired to fear the unknown, then how do you ever actually let go? How do you shed the skin you believe is you, without feeling like you're dying in the process? That's where most people get stuck, not because they're weak, but because no one taught us how to recognize the collapse as part of the awakening. Because no one told us that the death of the false self feels like loss, but is actually liberation. And in this video, we're going all the way in. You're going to understand why your transformation feels like death, why your nervous system resists what your soul craves, and how to cross the threshold without losing yourself, but finally returning to who you've always been beneath the fear. So if this theme speaks to something deep inside you, if you've felt the pressure of holding on to what no longer fits, then subscribe to this channel right now and walk with me into what's next. Don't wait for a better time. The shedding has already begun. Let's go deeper, because now we'll explore the invisible addiction to the familiar self, and how your emotional habits might be the real reason you feel stuck, even when you think you're healing. You're not holding on to the old self because it's working. You're holding on because a part of you has mistaken the pain for home. There's a kind of loyalty we build with our suffering, not because we want it, but because it's all we've ever known. And the body, it remembers. Every emotion you've repeated for years, every reaction that became automatic, every defense that once protected you, became a chemical loop. Familiar, predictable, strangely comforting. Here's the process. The nervous system doesn't crave joy. It craves familiarity. That's why people who always felt abandoned find themselves abandoned again. That's why those who were taught to suppress their voice often surround themselves with those who never listen, not because they enjoy it, but because to the brain, predictable equals safe. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who always felt unseen as a child. As an adult, they may unconsciously seek environments where their light is dimmed, not because they want that, but because the nervous system is addicted to that feeling. It's not a conscious choice. It's a familiar vibration. Pause now. Breathe slowly. Let one recurring emotion come into your awareness, the one that always finds you, even when life changes. Is it guilt, emptiness, rejection? Say it to yourself. Name it out loud if you feel called. Because naming the loop is the beginning of breaking it. But what if the most powerful truth was hiding where you never thought to look? The pain isn't the problem. The loop is. This is why healing can feel exhausting, because most are trying to escape the symptoms without recognizing the source. You're not just attached to the old self. You're chemically addicted to the emotional signature it carries. The identity doesn't just live in your thoughts, it lives in your cells. We're going even deeper, where you'll begin to understand why letting go doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like dying. Not because something is wrong with you, but because your body doesn't yet know the difference between surrender and death. Why letting go triggers survival panic. Have you ever noticed how the moment you begin to truly release something, a habit, a relationship, a version of yourself, it feels less like freedom and more like falling? That sinking feeling in your stomach, that tension in your chest, that whisper of fear telling you, stop, go back. It isn't weakness, it's biology. The ego does not experience letting go as liberation. It experiences it as annihilation. The old self was designed to keep you alive within the rules of a world that no longer matches your soul's direction. So when you loosen your grip, your nervous system interprets it as danger. Your heart races. Your mind replays old stories. It's not because you're broken, it's because you're stepping beyond the map. Bruce Lipton's research shows that nearly 95% of your behavior is driven by subconscious programming. Emotional memories stored like grooves in a record, playing over and over. Even when it's self-destructive, even when it hurts, your system will reach for what it knows. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. Let me explain. Imagine you've lived your whole life on a small island. Even though storms batter its shores, you've memorized every rock, every tree. Now someone offers you a boat to a new land. Part of you wants to go. But as you push off from the island, you feel panic. The sea is open. There's no map. Your brain screams, "This is dangerous," even though what's dangerous is staying on a sinking island. Pause for a moment and breathe. Notice how your body feels when you think of letting go of something old. Does your stomach tighten? Do your shoulders rise? This is not a sign you shouldn't change. It's a sign your biology thinks change is death. Recognizing that reaction is the first step toward dissolving it. But what if the collapse of the false self wasn't danger at all? What if it was the proof that the old structure can't hold the new frequency you're becoming? We're going to explore that next. We'll dive into the myth of gradual awakening, and why for many it comes not as a gentle unfolding but as a collapse that clears the space for rebirth. Before we go there, leave your mark below. Write a single word in the comments that captures what this moment brings up for you. Maybe it's trust, maybe it's release, maybe it's courage. One word, one vibration. This is how you begin to anchor a new pattern. The myth of gradual awakening. It happens through collapse. We've been told a story that awakening is soft, gradual, filled with light and quiet insights. That one day we'll simply rise from our bed enlightened, peaceful, effortlessly new. But for many, that's not how it happens. For many, awakening begins with collapse. It starts with losing what you thought you couldn't live without, with not recognizing yourself in the mirror, with the unbearable silence after something breaks, a relationship, a belief, a version of your life that no longer makes sense. It feels like falling apart, but it's not destruction, it's reconfiguration. You've seen it before, you just didn't know how to read it. Nature itself doesn't whisper when it transforms. Forests burn before new life breaks through the ash. Caterpillars dissolve completely in their cocoons before becoming butterflies. Even stars collapse before they become light. Let me give you an example. Maybe you went through a heartbreak so deep you didn't know how to rebuild. But months later, you found yourself no longer tolerating half love. Maybe you lost a job that defined you, and in the emptiness you discovered who you are without titles. Those moments didn't end you, they introduced you to yourself. Let's go deeper. Collapse is not failure. Collapse is initiation. The shattering is sacred. What if the breakdown you've been trying to avoid is actually your soul's most direct path forward? Pause now. Think of one moment in your life that looked like an ending, but became a doorway. You might still be walking through it. That's okay. The threshold isn't crossed in a day, but every breath through the chaos is part of the rebirth. We'll explore now one of the biggest traps in the healing journey: The subtle, seductive cycle of trying to fix the old self instead of releasing it entirely. Because not everything that breaks is meant to be repaired. Some things are meant to be left behind. The loop of improving the old self instead of releasing it. There's a hidden trap on the spiritual path that very few talk about. The illusion of self-improvement as transformation. But let's be honest. How many times have you tried to fix your pain by becoming a better version of the very identity that's holding you back? It's subtle. It looks like progress, but it's a loop. You meditate to quiet your anxiety, but not to dissolve the part of you addicted to control. You journal your triggers, but still organize your life around avoiding them. You read the book, say the mantras, change the habits, but still filter everything through the lens of the old self. Here's what's really happening. You're decorating the prison. You're changing the curtains, repainting the walls, maybe even expanding the cell. But the bars are still there. Why? Because you're trying to heal what was never meant to be permanent. You're trying to refine the mask instead of taking it off. Let me give you a real-life mirror. Imagine someone who always felt unworthy growing up. They become high-achieving, they succeed, they appear confident, but everything they build still rests on that same foundation. I'm not enough, so I have to prove it. It's not healing, it's compensation. That's the loop. Pause for a moment and ask gently, what parts of your growth are still built on fear? What areas of your life feel better, but not freer? Because here's the shift. True transformation doesn't polish the identity. It dissolves what doesn't serve the essence underneath. You're not here to evolve the ego. You're here to outgrow it. But what if the reason your outer world keeps recycling the same stories is because your inner world is still wearing the same costume? Let's go deeper. We'll explore the mirror reality, how life isn't punishing you, but reflecting you, and why patterns that keep repeating aren't just coincidences, they're invitations. Mirror reality. Life reflects the self. You refuse to outgrow. Life is not random. Life is a mirror. And the world you move through every day is reflecting what you still carry, still call home, still haven't laid to rest, even the things you claim to be tired of. If they keep showing up, it's because a part of you is still vibrating in harmony with them. This isn't about blame. It's about resonance. The universe doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your energy. And if your energy is still anchored in the old self, the one who fears abandonment, chases approval, hides behind control, then the outer world will simply echo that back to you. Not to punish you, but to wake you up. You've seen it before. You just didn't know how to read it. Maybe you've noticed it in relationships, different people, same dynamic. Or in your finances, a pattern of barely enough, no matter how much you earn. Maybe it shows up in your body, chronic tension, cycles of exhaustion. These are not just external problems. They are reflections of internal frequencies. Let me explain. Imagine a tuning fork vibrating at a certain pitch. It only activates what matches its tone. That's how reality works. Your frequency, your emotional baseline, is the tuning fork, and your life is the sound that answers back. Pause now and ask, what keeps repeating in my life? What pattern won't let go of me? Because I haven't let go of the version of me that invites it. Now here's the deeper truth. Most people try to change the mirror. They try to fix the people, the job, the circumstances. But changing the mirror doesn't work. You must change the image it reflects. Pause for a moment, feel your breath again, and consider this. What part of you is ready to be left behind? Not because it's wrong, but because it's outdated. Before we continue, if you've made it this far in the video, thank you. Your energy here matters, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read in the comments. Take a moment and share with us. Has there been a pattern in your life that kept repeating? Something you now recognize was reflecting your own frequency? Your words may be the mirror someone else needs today. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel and join this growing community of awakening souls. We're walking this path together, and we're just getting started. Just now, we're going to explore what the collapse of the old self actually feels like, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and why those sensations you might think are signs of breakdown are actually markers of becoming. What the collapse of the old self really feels like, and why it's good. The moment the old self begins to unravel, the body speaks, and often, it whispers through discomfort, confusion, and a silence that feels almost too big to bear. You may feel fatigue, the kind that no amount of sleep can fix. A heaviness in your limbs like you're walking through water. You may feel a deep fog in your thoughts, or a sudden sense of disconnection from things that used to matter. It's not laziness. It's not depression. It's your system recalibrating. This is how the collapse speaks. Not through words, but through sensation. Emotionally, you may feel numb, or the opposite, waves of sadness without a name. Sudden grief in the middle of an ordinary day. It's not that something is wrong, it's that something is leaving. The emotional chemistry of your old identity is losing its grip, and your body doesn't know who it is without it. Spiritually, there may be emptiness, a pause, a silence. Not because your soul is gone, but because the old noise has finally quieted. You may feel like nothing is happening, but in the void, everything is rearranging. You've seen this before, maybe in ways you didn't connect. A season where nothing made sense, where you questioned everything. A time where you couldn't feel joy the way you used to. These aren't signs of failure, they're signs of transition. Edgar Cayce once said, "Before truth enters, the house must be emptied." And that's exactly what this is. The collapse is not the end. It's the clearing. It's the emptiness required for the new frequency to find its place inside you. Let me give you an example. Someone who's lived most of their life performing for love, smiling through pain, pleasing others, silencing themselves, may one day find they can't fake it anymore. Social situations feel unbearable. Small talk becomes exhausting. It's not social anxiety, it's soul clarity. The collapse is revealing what was never yours. Pause now. Close your eyes if you want. Breathe. And let whatever you're feeling come to the surface without naming it good or bad. Just notice. What does release feel like in your body? Because here's the beauty. When you stop trying to feel better and start letting yourself feel deeper, the transformation accelerates. In the next and final topic, we're going to explore the ultimate shift, that you're not becoming someone else. You're remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. You're not becoming someone else. You're returning. There's a moment on the journey when you realize, this was never about becoming more. It was always about remembering. The old self, the one built to fit into a world that taught you to shrink, to perform, to adapt, was a brilliant survival strategy. But it was never your truth. It was never your essence. And now, as it begins to dissolve, the real you isn't being built. The real you is being revealed. Transformation isn't about adding layers, it's about peeling them off. You are not constructing a new identity. You are unlearning the one that was shaped by fear, by rejection, by the need to be accepted in places that never truly saw you. That is why it feels raw. That is why it feels vulnerable. But that is also why it feels real. Let me offer you a symbol. Michelangelo was once asked how he sculpted David from a block of marble. His answer was simple. I just removed everything that wasn't David. That's what you're doing now. You're not fixing yourself. You're revealing yourself. So what if you're not lost? What if you're just peeling away what never belonged? What if you're not broken? What if you're just mid-transformation? Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what would it look like to live today, not as someone trying to become, but as someone finally returning? Here's something to try. For the next 24 hours, let go of one behavior that feels like armor. Just one. Maybe it's over-explaining. Maybe it's saying yes when you mean no. Maybe it's hiding your excitement because someone else might not understand. Release it. Not to impress anyone, just to remember who you are without it. Because the new you isn't actually new. It's the ancient part of you that's always been waiting. Waiting for the space. Waiting for the silence. Waiting for the collapse. So it could finally rise. We're not done yet. In the closing moments of this video, let's integrate everything you felt, realized, and remembered. And I'll share one final truth to carry with you. It's not the end, it's the unveiling. If you made it here, something inside you has already shifted. You've walked through the tension of holding on and the truth of letting go. You've seen how the familiar pain became a loop. How collapse wasn't the enemy, but the passage. You've remembered that healing isn't about becoming someone new, but finally returning to the frequency that's always been yours. Let that sink in. You were never broken. You were becoming visible. The old self isn't wrong. It was brilliant at keeping you alive in a world that didn't know how to hold your light. But now you're not here just to survive. You're here to vibrate differently, to embody what no longer needs proving, to live as the frequency of your soul, not the fear of your past. And maybe you don't need to try harder. Maybe you just need to stop hiding from what you already are. So take a breath and carry this truth with you. The reality begins where your old pattern ends. This moment, this exact breath, can be the beginning. If it resonated with you, let it ripple beyond this video. Tell us in the comments what part of this touched your journey. Let your presence be felt. Your voice helps others remember theirs. Leave a like if this message landed in your heart. Subscribe to the channel and join our community, not of seekers but of rememberers. There's more coming, much more. This is only the first step. Keep walking, keep releasing, keep returning. And if you're ready to go deeper, the next video waiting for you is why you still can't see it, the veil inside you. Because the journey doesn't end here. It never did.